second question, and I want to direct this to you, Pastor John, because a gentleman came to me and asked this of me, and it's a question about eschatology, and when there's a difference in one's eschatology, how can they still maintain a relationship? And my mind went right away to someone that was very dear to you, and maybe you can address that.
Yeah, well, I know now that R.C. Sproul is a premillennial.
All right, did you all catch that? I think you did.
I mean, it happened in a split second. There was no debate, there was no argument, there was no giving all kinds of sides, there was no charts, there were no graphs. It was instant, pre-trib, pre-mill, future of Israel, no supersessionism. Yeah, and by the way, no pedobaptism. But about that. So if you're patient enough, it'll all work out. But in the process, we do acknowledge that Peter said even the prophets looked at what they wrote about what person and what time in the future because they couldn't understand it before it actually happened. And they were looking at the Messiah, and you think about the hundreds of prophetic statements about Messiah in the Old Testament that still left them in the dark. And I think in the book of Hebrews, we learned that those heroes of the Old Testament faith were never perfected without us, because everything comes into clarity when the mysteries of the New Testament are unfolded. So there is a sense in which we can be as specific as the Scripture is. And I think the flow of the book of Revelation in particular lays out an unmistakable eschatology. And if you follow the flow of the book of Revelation, it becomes very obvious, because the sequence of events is church age. All of a sudden you're in heaven, the saints are in heaven. All of a sudden you have all these horrible things on earth. At the end of that period of time, which is a 7-year period of time, Christ returns. You have a 1,000-year kingdom, the destruction of the creation and the new heavens and the new earth. It's the simplest chronology of any prophetic book in the entire Bible. So I don't think it's difficult. I think people get confused because there have been historically so many voices. But I think it's important, particularly today, as I was saying this morning, you are responsible to God to get your eschatology right. It's not enough to punt. You can't do that. You've got to go in there and figure it out, and when you come out, you got to know where you stand. And I think the key to getting the eschatology right is the key to getting the beginning of the story right. If your hermeneutics are the same in Genesis, you're going to be a 6-day creationist. If your hermeneutics are the same in Revelation, you're going to end up with a church age, a time of tribulation, the return of Christ, the establishment of the kingdom, the new heaven and the new earth, and it's just that simple. You almost have to go to school to get that unraveled.
Sure.
Hermeneutics is, if you change the rules of interpretation as you go, and particularly when you get to eschatology, you're lost. If the Bible doesn't mean what it says, then you're hopeless. Because how do you know what it means? If it doesn't mean what it says, well, it says you created in 6 days, but it doesn't mean that, really. Really. So I'm supposed to believe you, not this. The same in eschatology. Sure. I just think you have to do the work, and I think the Lord lays it out. In fact, isn't it clear that the book of Revelation starts with "Blessed is the one who reads and understands this book"? It isn't that difficult. You get fogged up by people who have the wrong idea, which is the reason why you have a guy like Sproul or many others like him who go from one eschatological view to another one and shift all over the place. They keep changing. Because if it isn't what it says it is, then what it is elusive.